stuff that we've been talking about so far. And I guess actually maybe we've already covered it, because like all of these tech guys will create something just to create it. They do it, and they say they just want to disrupt an industry to make it like more dynamic and interesting, but really they'll like create an app and then it'll run amok and then they'll just like leave it alone. Mm-hmm. But I think that
and not address the endless harms it caused.
Absolutely. But I think one of the really touching things that Shelley is drawing out in the relationship between Victor and the creature is that Victor, and it comes, it's so interesting because she apparently had a dream where, and the dream was super vivid, and it was like on a dark and stormy night like tonight, where she in the dream, there's a man who's like working furiously over a giant body on a table. And as soon as it moves, he's aghast, and that's it. She wakes up and she's like, ugh. But that's the nascent idea behind Frankenstein. And I think making the creature so like emotionally like raw and so intelligent, so able to describe what it's feeling. She's doing this thing where she's really sharply drawing like the relationship between a parent and a child, but the child can speak with like the beautiful prose of Milton, and describe what it's going through. And the monster at one point like relates to the archangel, the fallen angel, I should say, Lucifer, more strongly than any other person in the book.
Yeah, he's like, well, Lucifer is pretty cool.
Well, he's like, Lucifer is me, man. I feel like this is like, I see myself in him.
Yeah.
But
because he's been rejected.
Because he's been rejected by his creator. And the creator has all the power in that relationship to grant love and sympathy.
I've actually thought maybe we should read Paradise Lost at some point.
I'd be down.
Because, like, I mean, if you don't know the story, Satan or Lucifer is actually the hero.
He's the protagonist.
Because God is a dickhead.
Just like Victor.
Just like Victor. So there's obviously, she's very much drawing parallels from this, and then also, like she mentioned in the titles, or the modern Prometheus. So she's drawing on Greek mythology. She's definitely drawing on Milton, in her kind of, some of her estimations. So.
Yeah, I don't think Victor's punished quite as brutally. Well, I don't know, maybe he is.
I mean, everyone he loves, that he's longed for, that he's abandoned, is killed.
Like Ernst.
And then he is like, and the creature's ultimate revenge is to get him to chase him around the world.
Yeah.
Endlessly without
suffer the way that he suffered.
Suffer the way that I suffer.
In nature, like making his way through like harsh like conditions. But I do think that the parallel of like a parent really like withholding love and affection, or even understanding any sympathy at all, shows up a lot in our modern context. And the main two things I was thinking about while I was reading this were like autistic people who are basically like, there's a whole movement out there of parents who are rejecting their children because of the fact that they're autistic and blaming it on anything and everything they can find. But in doing that, negating the inherent humanity of their autistic children. Autism, people have been autistic for as long as we can tell. If you don't think that the character of Sherlock Holmes was clearly autistic, I don't know what the fuck you're thinking.
And as an autistic person, like we just want to be loved and accepted.
Absolutely. And then trans people. There were the other
trans people as well.
Thing I was thinking about is like, these are just people who like maybe represent themselves in a different way that is like can be jarring to certain people, maybe or like are kind of non-conforming in a visual sense, and are being literally hounded right now by government.
Well, and it's also like they always pick groups that are in a small minority as much as they can. Because if you try to pick on like, because the reality is a lot of the poor, the majority of the poor people in this country, for example, are poor white, and it's just population dynamics. It's just there are more white people, so there are more poor white people, right? But if you started picking on the poor white people, they would rise up against you and overthrow your ass. what you do is you pick on a small minority or small group like trans people or autistic people or other groups that don't have a lot of power and don't have a lot of ability to fight
people who
back.
don't have like recourse to, you know, government services or something like that.
Right, or they don't have any social power to punish people, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what kind of, which is a whole complicated conversation, and we probably shouldn't dive too deep into it, but it's like, that's a lot of what was going on in the 2010s and the 20 teens is like...
2010s or 20 teens.
Yeah, so it's 20 teens.
Yeah.
It's just such a weird thing to say.
It's a hard decade to name.
It's a hard decade to name. Yeah. But a lot of what's going on is as social media rises, minority groups suddenly have more social power to punish people for the wrongs that they've been experiencing for many generations.
Right.
And that is where the whole idea of wokeness comes from. It's a lot of people saying, look, for generations we have been punished, and now we have the ability to speak out and show you literally that this thing is going on a daily basis.
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, we can take videos of it and post it. Yeah,
and that is like that's part of like, I mean, again, that's a whole complicated thing that we could talk about, but it's but like there's a lot of that stuff going on, is that you pick on the people who have less power to fight back.
Absolutely.
Which is why trans people is like the #1 demonized group at the moment.
Yeah.
Because they're such a small minority and they have very little way to organize and fight back in a meaningful way.
And their ability to like realize their, I don't know, their inner reality, to like make it very apparent to everyone else, is like through medical interventions. And those are so expensive. Like, I can't think of another group that their identity is wrapped up in like
something that's really difficult to access.
Absolutely, that difficult to access, especially in the United States. Yeah, man, it's fucking sad.